Brian, did you email Wolf the agenda? Did you email Wolf the agenda? Okay.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I appreciate everybody coming out. This is the very first general member meeting for the Bear Creek Community Council. Just to give a brief history, we started the conversation on forming this council back in, I believe it was October of last year. Met at the fire department, and it was general consensus that we would move forward with it. Bylaws committee, or a kind of a general exploratory committee, was formed to look into what some other communities around our area were doing. And then after another meeting, we formed the bylaws committee. Over about the next 4 or 5 months, we wrote what are now our final version of the bylaws that are being used to form our nonprofit. So if you haven't seen a copy of those, make sure you get a hold of them and take a look. So we do have an agenda that should be posted if you didn't get it. Make sure you're on the email list, by the way. That's where we'll be sending announcements about meetings, things like that. We're going to talk about the Facebook page a little bit and what our ideas are for what that's going to be and what it's not going to be. And I'll let Rodney kind of run with that. But we don't have previous meeting minutes because we don't have a previous meeting. We do have minutes from our first board meeting, which are kind of in draft form. We're going to try to get those finalized here in about the next week or so, get them edited to make sure they're kind of streamlined to cover what we discussed in our first meeting, and we'll send those out again through the email list. So we'll set up another. I think we had a QR code or a link maybe on when we first formed, or before the council was even formed, I should say. We'll set up another one of those so that it's very easy for you to not only sign up yourself, but to send it to people who maybe aren't as technologically advanced or aren't on Facebook or whatever the case may be, so that they can stay informed. So, and I apologize. This is my first ever opportunity to serve on a board like this. So if I'm not an expert at leading one of these meetings, that's why. But it's a big honor for me to have been elected and for the board to have asked me to serve as the chair here for the first year of the council. So item number 3, we're going to ask for a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a motion? Motion. Second?
Second.
All right. Any opposed to the agenda?
Can I get names for on the motion?
Blake
Sorry.
Sears.
Thanks.
Motion.
And who seconded, please?
Celeste.
Celeste, thank you. And hopefully we will get that agenda up on the screen soon.
All right, so just a couple of items from the board, again, that we worked through at our first board meeting. I'm going to ask Rodney, who is our vice chair, Rodney Rumich. He's our vice chair and also has taken on the role as our vice for public relations. He's going to be handling things like newsletters, emails that'll go out, and particularly I wanted him to speak about the Facebook page because we've gotten a lot of requested posts that we've had to deny just because we're trying to keep it very simple. So, take Rodney.
Well, my name is Rod Rurick, and this is my first board as well. I'm on the flood board, but we don't do much public speaking. In fact, we can't hardly get anybody to come to our meetings. So I would encourage you guys in Bear Creek area to come to the flood board meeting. But the Facebook page, obviously, everybody's on Facebook, and we do not want it to turn into a lot of these other Facebook pages. We're going to use it mainly as a just a bulletin board for us to get to the public announcing meetings. I did post something last week about it, and we just cleared it up, made it a little more defined. I'm just going to read it so nobody has any questions. The official Bear Creek Community Council Facebook page exists to share information related to community council meetings, local events, public notices, and issues affecting residents of the Bear Creek area. Residents and council members are encouraged to continue sharing community information, photos, announcements, and discussions on their personal pages or local community groups, and to tag Bear Creek Community Council when appropriate, so residents can still discover and engage with that content. Our goal is to keep the page primarily focused as a central information resource for Bear Creek residents while encouraging broader community interaction throughout local social media. So you're guys welcome to post whatever you want on your page, or I know there's a couple other pages that aren't the official page, but there's good conversation on there. You guys can write and tag us if you will. But we're going to try to keep our page to just not a lot of discussion. So if you want to contact us, we have an email right now. Plus, we'll be making our own website. Nate's making our own web page here shortly, and then we will all have our own individual emails on that as well. If you just want to contact us through that email, that we can then share amongst ourselves. And also, the biggest way to contact us is to come to these meetings. I want to encourage everybody to get informed and come to these meetings, and that's where we're going to learn the most. I don't know how many of you guys were at the meeting last week, but I just feel like the more information that everybody can get in a room together gets rid of all the posts everywhere else where we don't know true facts. So the Facebook page will be just the bulletin board.
That is not the official Facebook page. That is not the one.
This is BCCC right now.
Oh,
That's a good one to post.
there you go, that's
Yeah, so just a brief background on that page that was posted. I think I saw the corner of my eye, the birds on the wire thing. That was created at the behest of the bylaws committee. I'll just make sure I get my timeline right. So that we had an outlet on Facebook, because it is just a kind of an easy outlet to post things on. And then once we formed our official board, once the board was elected, then we started our official page, which, like Rodney said, we're going to just try to keep it very straightforward and streamlined so that it's not a zoo that the board has to pick sides or decide who's appropriate or who's not. It's just going to be, when can you show up in person, make comments, ask questions, that sort of thing. So I'm going to turn it over to Nate Smith, who is working on our website and who also filed our articles of incorporation as a nonprofit.
Good evening, guys. Nate Smith, also a first time ever doing a council, been involved in a lot of stuff here. The vision for the webpage and what we were talking about is a place for, like what Rodney was, an extension of all the information we can get to you. Connecting the different places so you don't have to go to the flood board page, go to this page. Hopefully get drop downs where everything's on there. On the back of it, we do want to set up emails where each one of us would have an email that you can contact us through, in addition to just a broad email to the entire board. So that way we feel more comfortable talking to one of us and then versus everybody else or submitting. We wanted avenues for everybody to talk to. In the process of this, it's gonna take a little bit, but I'm just envisioning where we can have our highlights, we can have our meetings, just another way of information. And also, once we do get it up, we'll probably be asking the public, what would you like to see on there that we can add to make it easier in site navigation and whatnot. The articles of incorporation and everything was filed earlier, get everybody together to do it. And it looks, I don't know, 10 days out, so it'll be pretty nice there.
Perfect. And once we have the nonprofit, then we can get the EIN, we can set up a bank account, we can start fundraising for any types of projects we want to set up that the council would like to see done, or things we want to support, or just in general to fund things like the website, or because we are going to have to raise some money to cover some of our expenses, operating expenses. There's a lot of rules and regs about grants. Grants have to go to specific projects, so we need to find ways to fund our own operations. So we'll be talking more about that. We'll probably be sending out some emails once that comes across. As of right now, everything's been done basically on just a volunteer or donation sort of status. The bylaws committee primarily raised the funds for the legal review of the bylaws. We did have some individual members contribute to that, and that basically got back to zero. We were maybe a couple dollars under, but we did get that covered. So just a couple of notes on what the board's been talking about as far as how to run these meetings. We are going to have, we're going to allow 2 10-minute presentations per meeting. And in order to sign up for one of those presentation slots, we ask that you email the Bear Creek Community Council at gmail.org email address, or gmail.com email address, so that you can be included on the agenda, because we don't want to have a lot of surprises when people come to these meetings. We want everybody to know what's going to happen and what's going to be talked about. So if you do have something that you want to create a formal presentation, we'll do our best to post. If you have a PowerPoint or Excel spreadsheet or whatever you got, we'll do our best to put that up there for you, and give you 10 minutes to talk. Other than that, we do have 2 public comment periods that are limited to 3 minutes per person, and we're gonna kind of figure out how to best lay out this agenda so that it's similar to what some other municipalities do. There may be a few differences. We do have an agenda structure in our bylaws that we need to make sure we include all of those items, but there may be some discussion of, we want to allow some public comment earlier in the meeting or that sort of thing. So just kind of be prepared. If you have thoughts on that, we'd like to hear your input. So other than that, our next meeting is going to be June 17th. So make a note of that. We'll send out an email to let everybody know exactly. We're going to try to follow generally a 3rd Wednesday of the month kind of schedule, just to keep it consistent. And so you're not guessing when the meeting is. We're going to, as best we can, unless there's some major holiday or some reason we need to move it, we're going to do our best to stick to that. So other than that, I think we'll go ahead and, do we have Cindy ready to?
Yeah.
Ready to go? Okay. This Wolf Kurtz, if you don't know Wolf, he's volunteered to help us out. Seward Public Media, he's helped set up our sound equipment, also live streaming the meeting. We'll try to make sure that all these meetings are available, whether or not you can be here in person. So appreciate Wolf taking the time to help us out with that. So as soon as Cindy's ready, we'll allow her to.
Okay, Cindy, can you guys help check? Just a little bit. I'm going to turn it off.
Okay.
By the way, John was just telling me we do have 38 voting members present, so we do have a quorum, which is really kind of cool for our first meeting, that we did have enough people show up to make that happen. We don't have anything officially
Okay.
set
Can you
to
hear me
vote.
now?
Here we go.
Go ahead.
Cindy, I don't know if you can hear me, but go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much. I just want to start off by stating that I support the Bear Creek Fire Service, and I'm providing this information to help the community make informed decisions. All of the financial information I'm sharing is available on the Kenai Peninsula Borough website. 10 years ago, the entire Bear Creek Fire Service area fund balance was $152,000. Today, that fund balance is over $850,000. But I wanted to know what the fund balance of just the 1% mill rate was, so I calculated it, and that's what you see in the spreadsheet. I also went back 18 years and checked the fund balance of the Bear Creek Fire Service area, and it has never been below the maximum allowed in those blue boxes on that graph that Randy shows, and that you can find in any budget book. The 1% mill rate was not added to the 2.25 mill rate assessment until 2014, after they got all the bond paperwork done and everything. The debt service payment began in 2016. I prepared the spreadsheet while I was in transit, so I used the information I had on printed out printed out forms from KPB website. So the numbers, the actual forecast, projected amounts make the final balance a close estimate. When I'm back in the grid, I can recalculate after looking at the actual amounts for 23, 20, and 19 and 16 instead of the actual or the forecast or projected. I want you to know that I've already asked the Kenai Peninsula Borough Attorney to prepare an amendment to Resolution 2026-032, which will be on the Assembly meeting on Tuesday, June 2nd. That mill rate sets, that resolution sets the mill rate for fiscal year 27. And I've asked for an amendment that would lower the Bear Creek Fire Service area 1% mill rate, so by 0.50%. And I really want to thank everyone in the Bear Creek community for forming this council so that I can do what you would like me to do, because I can remove the amendment if this vote doesn't want to ask for a decrease. You can see in the figures that the difference between the 1% voter approved mill rate that was to build the Bear Creek Fire Service area building and the debt service that was paid, the difference between those two amounts is approximately $1,688,276. So if $50,000 had been set aside from that assessment, that 1%, for every year for 14 years to do other capital projects or to pay for the extra things that were suggested that weren't calculated in, that would have been another $600,000 going to those projects, which I believe could have covered quite a bit of that. Point number 3 is, due to the increased property assessed values over time, more than $1 million was collected than was needed. Even if you took that 600,000 out that went towards capital projects, it's more than 1 million. So I believe that the 1% mill rate should be decreased now. I tried last year to decrease it by 0.25. I'm ready to go to 0.5. I believe that we need to get a sunset clause added that would end that new adjusted mill rate when the building debt was paid off. And if at any time after that, it's determined that the Bear Creek Fire Service area needs to increase the service area mill rate in order to provide service to the community, the mill rate could be increased accordingly. And that's pretty much all I had to say about the amounts that the community has been putting in, and I believe it's been too much. So if you're allowing questions at this time, I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, I'm available by phone or email. I'll be back in town on Monday.
We need to offer, both speakers will get questions,
Are there any questions?
so.
Maybe we could put it up for a motion. Do we want to allow, how much time do we have left? In her 10 minutes?
We got like 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
We have about 5 minutes left in her allocated 10 minutes. Is there a motion to allow questions specifically during the remainder of her 5-minute period to take and answer those questions?
to allow questions.
A second.
Any opposed?
Got it.
Okay. Are there any questions for Cindy? Cindy, during this remainder of her time?
Please come up to the
You
microphone.
wouldn't mind
so
using the
everyone
microphone
can
in front
hear.
so she can
I
hear you.
know you don't want to do that, Michelle, but come on up. I'm sorry, who was the second? I wasn't paying that much attention.
Rini Allard.
Thank you. Now I have a name and a face.
My daughter always looks at what color your hair is. She loves it.
I just wanna know if that's been paid. Are they done paying off the building?
Cindy, I don't know if you heard that. Has the debt been paid? Has the building been paid for?
No, in 2021, they, refinanced the debt to lower the payments. They were about, as you can see, they were in, above 90,000, 97, 95, 97. So when they refinanced in 21, it lowered the debt payment amount to below 90,000. And I've been told 2 different years for this to be paid off, either 2031 or 2034. If we paid it off early, I think there is some sort of a fine or, added cost for an early payoff.
Any other questions?
Hey Cindy, this is Rodney Rimick. I'll be honest, I'm new to all this, and so I haven't been very involved, and so I've been going to as many meetings as I can to try to understand all this. I guess from all the meetings that I've been to, that all the numbers on paper that suggest the operating cost of what the fire department is now, are there any discrepancies on what it actually costs to run right now? Because I guess my question would be, if you want to cut it, where are we cutting it from? Because unless you're going to take away service, we're paying for what we have. Is that right? So where would you, if we do cut it 1 mil, where is that coming from?
It's coming from the abundant fund balance.
Right, and that fund balance was always low in the past, but we didn't have a balance that if we needed to replace an apparatus or. I'm new, I'm just trying to understand my problem.
But I understand this, it doesn't come like overnight, this kind of information, and there's a lot of details to it, but no service would be cut. They have enough extra money over the years. If the budget that they set, they've never utilized all of those funds. So the leftover funds go into a fund balance. Right now, they have a fund balance of over $850,000.
And that's not the fund that they would use if they needed to replace something?
Well, that could be used if they needed to replace something, but they have a replacement program where they replace it at certain intervals. I mean, if there was an accident, they have insurance and they get the insurance money to replace it. There are funds, but it's not like they have, I think for most of the last 5 years, maybe longer, they have put 225,000 to 300,000 transferred money from the fund balance into a capital project account, which is what I mean, you can ask the chief, but I believe that's what they've been using for capital projects, which is replacement of things, or hopefully it was like to finish the building, so.
So if we cut the mill, it wouldn't change the service at all.
No, it would not.
I'm trying to learn.
My name's Chris Lilimo. So again, back to basics here. You're saying that they've collected an extra 1.6 mil, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if you look at how much the mill has brought in based on the assessed value of properties between the time it started being collected in 2014 and that is projected to be collected in 2027, and then you add up all of the debt service that's been paid out, you come up with 1.6, close to $1.7 million in excess.
And all they really need is like 1,093,000.
That's what they've paid. No, that's what they've paid.
Yeah.
To
So
their annual.
so they've kind of collected almost twice as much as what they've needed. Yeah, we should cut that back.
That's kind of the way that it looks, and that's primarily due to the increase in the property values. And no one looked at it in detail to say, okay, well, they're getting a lot more. In 2007, when the 1 mil was voted in, the fund balance was, well, in 2017, it was 152,000. So it's grown. It's grown by 700,000 from in the last 10 years. Property values have increased over 34% in the last 4 years. So the money is just because the 1% was never decreased, more money was collected than was needed to pay the debt. They still get 2.25 of a mill rate, which is what they were been getting for many years to run the fire department.
Hi Cindy, this is Bart Elhard. Can you just touch on what everybody else on the peninsula has done with their mill rates in the past couple of years?
Yeah, in fact, there's some coming up, but while I'm pulling that up off of this mill rate resolution that's coming up, if you look across the budget documents, you'll see what mill rates are for the other fire service areas and the square miles they cover and how many people they cover. The highest current mill rate is 3.26, just 0.01. And that is Kachemak City's fire service area. And they have close to 5,000 people and they cover 214 square miles. You compare that to Bear Creek, which has just under 2,000 people and has 15 square miles. And the Seward area is the only fire service area that also has a volunteer ambulance corps. The other areas have to be ready to do all the medical runs as well. Okay, so there are some levies being changed on Tuesday night. The mill rate for the North Peninsula Recreation Service Area is decreasing by 0.15. McKiskey Senior Service Area is decreasing by 0.01. The Road Service Area is decreasing by 0.10. And Soldovia Recreation Service Area is increasing by 0.75 because they're trying to fund their pool. But mill rates get increased and decreased annually during the budget process. It's not like a new thing.
Any other questions for Cindy? All right, thank you very much, and I suppose you can stick around if people want to use their 3 minutes to ask an additional question. I don't see any issue with that, but thank you for taking the time to present to the group.
You're welcome.
Chief Brackett.
So Chief, just to be fair, you have an extra 4 minutes, just so it's the same for Cindy and what she talks, or whether that's talking or questions. You've got 14 minutes.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm gonna ask, I'm Richard Bracken, I'm the Fire Chief of Bear Creek Fire Service Area, and talking to bill rates come up. And so I've been asked to speak on it. And so kind of I guess the focal point is that bond payment vote, or that bond vote in 2007. So I'm just gonna take us all the way back to 2007, and I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't going to throw a whole lot of other numbers out at you. So apologies up front. I know it's a lot of numbers tonight. I hope I can do a good job at translating that as best I can. So I'm going to start in 2007, and I kind of got it compartmentalized, and I want to just take you back to 2007 when we made the vote and what wasn't considered along the way, because the argument is that we're using excess funds, we're using surplus funds, we're using additional funds for operations. And to be honest with you, we kind of are. And some of that is that one mill that is seen as committed to that bond payment. But I want to explain what wasn't part of the conversation before that vote or when that vote had happened. So let's start in 2007. As far as personnel comparisons are concerned, in 2007, the main cost was $29,846. And that cost was for a temporary administrative assistant, a summer hire, and some training stipends. In 2009, fiscal year 2009, $30,236 was added. This was for that administrative assistant to be increased to 3/4 time. And that 3/4 time is considered full time as far as benefits are concerned. And so that's a great portion of that cost increase. It compensated for the deficiency in administrative duties and in grant writing efficiency. In fiscal year 2011, $58,952 was added. It paid for a captain's position that focused on training and maintenance. It was a 3/4 time position, and it was added after a post-incident evaluation where several responders were injured on a call. The assessment was that training was unstructured and it was a liability for the service area, so they added that training captain's position to kind of stabilize that and add structured training. Sometime in 2015 and 16, and I'm using both of those years because numbers were realized in 2016, but I think that the transition into a paid fire chief it happened in 2015, but the numbers weren't realized until 16. $10,847 was added. There was a failure in leadership that resulted in the training captain's position being converted into the fire chief position. And that was in the service area, no longer contracted to the volunteers. And the responsibility for administration and operations fell to the borough paid fire chief. And with that conversion, it only brought it up by $10,000. Budget costs, they weren't realized until 2016. The total personnel cost at the fiscal year of that transition was $195,156, with $17,200 of that going to volunteer stipends. If you add for wage increase over the next 12 years, you're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $250,000 in personnel costs. Since that time,
what you see in the budget documents that kind of inflate the perspective of what the personnel costs are, is there's $81,666 in fiscal year 27 budget that is committed to FISA employment. So we have 2.5 employees. Technically, there are 3 full-time employees there, but a half-time is spread between 2 employees to bring the fire chief and one of the fire techs up to full-time. That is paid out of a different service area, though it's reflected in the budget. That happened in 2019. Between 2023 and 2025, we added some stipends for our volunteers. We added we added call stipends. If you go on a call, we'll give you $20. And we added in 25, we added stipends for volunteer shifts to be held for our non-working hours so that we could get out the door faster and get to your emergency faster. That left us, if you combine all of that, our personnel wages, that left us $155,000. What we did with that was we added a fire tech, and for legitimate reasons. And we also added on-call overtime to support our volunteers for non-working hours, committing one of the paid staff to going on every call that comes into the Bear Creek Fire Service area. Some unexpected expenditures in addition to our personnel costs. In fiscal year 12, insurance premiums jumped $22,004 due to an incident, that same incident in 2009, where several responders were injured. In 2015, insurance premiums jumped again by $10,628 due to the addition of the building and the insurance costs that were coupled with it. Our utilities increased by $39,500 that same year for the same reason. And because we went from a 6,700 square foot building, or 2 buildings that had about that much, to over a 14,000 square foot building. Our costs were naturally going to be much higher. Our building grounds and maintenance tripled from 2007. It was reduced from a high of $19,000 a year in fiscal year 23 with the purchase of a snowplow, and now we've been able to bring it back down to $10,000 a year, and we hope if we trend downward that we'll be able to pull more off of that cost in the future. Currently, those 3 items and services alone equal about $125,000, and these were not expected costs, or they weren't a part of the conversation in 2007. You add all the service lines together, and it's an increase of approximately $150,000. I just talked about the big things, but there are a lot of smaller items that increased over the way that have increased our cost, increased our cost of doing business. What did we do over the last 20 years to compensate for these increases? Well, we reduced the training budget. It went from a high of over $14,000 to a low of a little over $3,000. There were some years that $30,000 was budgeted, but we were only given the $14,000 to train with. Currently, we're sitting at $5,600 a year, and we use that with some creative teaching to train our volunteers. And just on a side note, if you take any 5-year stretch for the last 20 years, we have about a 50 to 75, depending on the bracket of 5 years, 50 to 75% turnover of our volunteers within a 5-year stretch. It's just how it goes. And so we have to make training be a high component of what we do. We don't want incompetence and lack of safety on the fireground or on EMS. We reduced gear and equipment purchases and maintenance. From what I've seen in the budgets, there's been no meaningful firefighting gear purchases from 2010 to 2017, where the next administration ramped up purchases and was able to kind of claw back from that deficiency in gear. We gutted our capital project transfers. Reductions began in fiscal year 2013 and continued until fiscal year 2020. In 2015, we saw a transfer of $40,000 with a need of $125,000 annually to be fiscally responsible. The balance set at $200,000 with a balance need of over $2 million to replace according to the replacement schedule given at the time. When I took over in fiscal year 21, the annual transfer need was $126,000 a year with a balance need of $2.2 million. and an expected balance of $153,000 by the end of the fiscal year. And it's just because we didn't have the money. And that's where we peeled back and we couldn't replace apparatus when they were supposed to be replaced. We're now sitting at a transfer rate of $125,000 a year to catch up. With a balance of needing about $1.6 million and an expected balance of $932,000 by the end of this upcoming fiscal year. These are the majority of the costs you see in the budget. A lot of them are accounted for, but a lot of them were unexpected and they kind of ballooned on us. Not a lot we can do about it. What you don't see is what we're doing to reduce costs so that the burden does not fall on the shoulders of you, the taxpayer. Some of the big ticket items are, a couple of years ago, we had a pump fail. The recommended replacement was about $25,000. We've got a guy that's a local mechanic that just really loves us a lot, and he really throws us a bone every now and then, and he guided us through a rebuild process that only cost us $1,000. Our paid staff, along with some volunteer help, was able to, in just that instance alone, save $24,000 of your money. Last year, our primary engine's motor blew up. It blew the liners, and the expected motor replacement was $80,000. That same person came in this last winter, and in 5 business days, we rebuilt that motor for $10,000. That's a $70,000 savings. In 2022, I requested a project cost comparison of what it was going to take to finish the upstairs that was unfinished. $615,000 was given to us as the cost. I thought it was ridiculous and unattainable. Well, a couple of years ago, I got permission to finish it ourselves under the volunteers' efforts, and we have managed to get the majority of it finished with an expected finish cost of $35,000, of which doesn't come from borough funds, from mill rate funds. They come from our volunteers fundraising and securing grants for the purpose of that. So it's a big win for us. Some other things you don't see. In calendar year 24, we call a whole bunch of training. We shifted to in-house training and became more robust. And now we're finding more competency and training on the fairground, on the EMS scenes. We taught an equivalent of $28,900 worth of training in calendar year 24, with $41,150 in 25, and an expected teaching regimen in 26 of $45,500 that you guys will pay for. That we're doing it ourselves on some great instructors that we've built up in-house, and we're teaching these things at the ground level without having to outsource to other agencies. And there's some pretty big classes. These are massive savings that our volunteers and paid staff provide, but they aren't very visible to the public. So in closing, I can't answer all the questions you may have about the budget in this presentation. There are too many. I don't know what those questions are, but I have an answer if you ask. I have been and will continue to make myself available to answer any questions you may have. I say this a lot, I'm an early riser. I get up about 4 o'clock in the morning, I don't know, my eyes open and I'm awake. And I get to the station on my working day between 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning, I have 12 cups of coffee brewing. If you want to come in before work and you want to chat, be angry at me, get past the anger, we have a conversation, I'm perfectly fine with that. I am available for you. If 5 o'clock rolls around, I'm walking out the door and you walk in, we turn right back around. Because it's important that you understand what we're dealing with and what we're giving. I encourage you to come and talk to me. If you need me to come and talk to you, I will. I had a gentleman call me yesterday and say, hey, can we meet? And I said, your place or mine? He said, it'd be nice if you met my work. And we met for 2 hours. It was a great meeting. We had a great conversation. I will come to you if need be. I have a couple more things to say, but I'm out of the script, so I need a little guidance. I encourage you to come to our board meetings. We talk about a lot of these things. A lot of this information is fully fleshed out in our work sessions, in our board meetings. They're the second Tuesday, unless something gets in our way. They're the second Tuesday of the month at 6 o'clock. We encourage you to come in. It's open to everyone. Ask your questions. If I don't have an answer, I will get in touch with you and figure it out for you. I don't know all the answers to all the questions. Brandy, the finance director, probably knows all the answers to all the questions. So I will be there. Just for some clarification, because I think there was some confusion. I'm done with my spiel, but So we have two fund balances. I didn't want there to be any confusion. We have our operating fund balances where all of our revenue goes into, all the mill rate, all of the FISA funds, all the state funds, grant funds, everything goes into. We build a budget and then we transfer it into a capital project fund. They both have two different balances. The balance that I was talking about, where we had an annual allocation and the need to be fiscally responsible at a certain balance for apparatus replacement, that is your capital project fund. Our operating fund has a minimum and a maximum balance. If we're out of compliance for 3 years, we try to write that through a mill rate adjustment. And it's our job as directors to try to find a budget that meets that middle ground or be as fiscally responsible as possible. And I feel like if you have an opposing view, if you have ideas to make it cheaper, I am open to pretty much anything. I feel like we're pretty creative at Bear Creek, and we would definitely entertain any ideas you may have. Thank you. I did not think that was 14 minutes.
14.55, you're good.
I'm available beyond this booking.
It's just a city council, and they stop the time. Like, there's a lot of questions.
I'm not saying.
How do we change our structure where we have presentations, we can stop time and allow questions?
I think it's formally written in the bylaws.
I mean,
Figure that out.
if somebody really wants to ask Chief Bragg a question, I think maybe they should just make a motion here real quick.
Can I make a motion that we get a chance to ask Chief questions?
I'll second that. I'll second that.
There we go.
So I'm sorry, who made the
Cody
motion?
Gilmore makes a motion.
One more time?
Cody Gilmore?
Thank you.
Go to Pat, right?
So one of the things we were discussing up here was whether once the speaker stops and we allow questions, does that stop the clock on their time? There's some discussion that maybe that's how things are done at the city council meeting. So there's a motion to allow for a few more minutes to ask questions. So in a second, so if anybody has any questions for Chief Bracken, let's step up to the microphone and he'll stick around.
I started off here. Does everybody mind? I started off here. Question. Okay, being this is my first real time doing this and everything, I don't want to come across harsh. I do appreciate everything coming there. I guess this is where I come from. My question would be, what was the public sold in 2007 on the vote?
There's two sides to it. One side, well, so there's two subjective interpretations. So one interpretation is that the $100 per $100,000 worth of assessed value was an example given, and that the assembly sets the mill rate based on the operational need delivered by the chief and board through the mayor to the assembly. The other interpretation is that one mill was dedicated to that bond payment and that bond payment alone. And so there's some discrepancy there.
Okay, that's my lead into a couple of questions here. Because that's what I believe it was, you know, and now, and what makes me further believe that is there was a time where we refinanced the building, which led the structure to stay out further and brought the payment down, but yet enabled a clause to where we can't pay off early. So my question would be, was that decision made knowing the difference of intake of the mill rate and knowing that we needed to help fund other parts, you know, that were missing there? Because what it looks like to me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, is that we elongated payments so we can keep collecting money, knowing the property values have gone up, more money's coming in, lower the payment going out, and now entered into a contract that we cannot pay off early. So now we know that we have a set amount of funds that's gonna be coming in over here. And I'm just wondering how that decision came about to renegotiate, to lower our payment, although more money from the mill rate was coming in and we couldn't pay it off early.
Just a second. Cindy, are you still online?
Yes, I still am online.
Hey, could you refresh my memory of which fiscal year that bond payment was adjusted? I just was refinanced.
I believe it was 2021.
Okay. I personally was not a part of those discussions. I was under the impression, and I will ask Brandy, she's the architect of that, and I was under the impression that it did not, that it kept our payoff date somewhere in the neighborhood of 2032, 2033. So I'm not aware of an extension of that, and I wasn't aware of a clause. I thought that clause always existed, and I was told no once when I asked, and I didn't dig any more. It's relatively new. The way I understood it, Brandy changed the date of the payment or restructured it somehow, did Brandy magic, and it lowered the payment without any effect on the actual bond itself. And so this is the first time I've heard this, to be honest.
And then my last part of this question would be, for the majority of the people that have come to me and asked, they thought they were voting on a building for the mill rate. And I don't think anybody in this room would vote down the safety of firefighters or anything of that nature. I think where people are, the disconnect is here is they thought they were voting for a building. Now there's money being used that's in excess that, did not get voted on or have some public input. And it's not just with Bear Creek, it happens at our own council here in town. It just becomes a line item that you can use somewhere. So that's why I wanted clarification on some of that. So thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Chief Brackett?
Yeah, how much do you do grant writing and how much do you bring in a year in grants?
If you give me just a second, I think I got a page. I don't know about in a year, but I do a couple of volunteers in there because we work very closely together. But I think currently in the last 5 years, I think we're sitting on about $1.1 million in grant awardment. There may be a couple of grants that I'm missing in there. I used to catalog it. If you give me just a second, I'll try to find it.
Okay, and well, grants are very specific, correct? You write it for a certain thing and that's what the money's to be spent for, right?
Yes.
So when that was voted in for the Bear Creek Fire Department, I think our chief, Mark, you were here, right? You were the chief then. What was voted for?
I believe it was 1.2 for the bond. If we raised another 2.1 or 2.4, we actually raised 3 something. The building was like 5 million, but that was grants from the state of Alaska, Rasmussen Fund, and Alley Commission, and it took a number of other sources. And the price increased some between when the bond was originally discussed and when the building was actually built. So some of that was inflationary.
And the mill rate was to be used to pay for the building, correct?
That's what we told people, and we told them it would end when the building was paid off.
And that's where the angst comes from, like what Nate was saying is, we voted on a certain building. It's kind of like a grant. You just said a grant is to be used for a specific thing. People voted for that to be used for a specific thing. Last week at the last meeting, the mayor said it goes into the general fund. And that's where the things get mixed up and the transparency gets confused by people. And you see this 1.68 excess. If that's true, would you as a chief believe that we should reduce the mill rate? If you're being funded to what you need and there's that much extra, do you believe that it should be reduced, the mill rate? as the chief?
Being on the inside and seeing what I've seen, I don't see the excess. I understand the excess associated with the mill rate, associated with the bond payment. I also recognize the operational need of the fire department, and I don't know how to reconcile that. I honestly don't.
Nobody's debating about, we all want to be safe, we want you to have what you need to do. But if there is indeed an excess, I would think it would make sense that it could be reduced. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I would say if we had a reasonable excess, that I wouldn't have any problem championing that. I just don't see that excess from an operational.
Sure, I get that. But it's a general rule. If you had what you needed to keep us all safe, you would agree with that then?
Yeah, if I have more than I need, I don't need it.
Okay, thank you.
Greg, the question back?
Hi, Chief, quick question for you regarding your volunteers. Looking at how big is our volunteer fire department right now?
I believe we're sitting at about 25, somewhere around neighborhood $25.
And how many lieutenants and captains do we have?
One captain.
One captain. What's your timeline from a training perspective to develop more lieutenants and captains out of that corps?
I don't have my career development path here, but I believe, so to make engineer or sergeant in other circles, to move from the firefighter to engineer, there are some educational requirements and it is a two years, an additional year for lieutenant, an additional year for, captain. The captain is, split into, strengths, not that they can't do the other, but, there is an EMS captain position and then there's a suppression or fire protection position for captain.
So let's say because I'm going to advocate that if there is potential to reducing the mill rate, it's because we're going to shift some money over into investing in the training and then developing the volunteer capacity. Do you have a plan that can also align with that can help us amplify more support from our community, that can help offset some of those costs?
I'm not quite sure I'm following you. You're saying to amp up the training to
make up for the absence of the lieutenants and the captains.
That are not paid. Those are in the volunteer.
Oh, I don't think they're volunteers, but to make up for the education components, the training, so we can get them to be leaders for responses, incident commanders, so we can have some of them take a leadership role in the fires, which then we can also help reduce some of our, the history of it says we should not be paying this much, but the future of it says we count on the money we're bringing in. Do you think there's a solution that uses our volunteers to support them, to train them up through your leadership that can help us reduce our mill rate?
I would need to know the specifics on that. What would you be reducing in specifically? Because we've moved to a tack of providing training in-house at little to no cost, and I don't understand where you're thinking of reducing to provide that. I need to know what the end goal is. I can tell you whether we can get there or not.
Probably potentially personnel costs.
Are you talking about reducing or just no further increase of personnel costs?
I think that would be your job to tell us how to do either one effectively and still maintain services.
If the argument is reducing personnel that currently exist, I would say that's a pretty poor decision. I think that we find ourselves in an unstable environment pretty quick. I think that our savings from our current paid staff far outweigh the cost. We're getting significantly more for them. As far as adding new positions, I think the stronger our volunteer base is, the less the need is. And so, that's what we strive for every day, is to keep those costs down, and creatively building a robust training program is, I guess, for lack of better terminology, keeping wolves at bay, or whatever you want to call it, keeping costs down, so we don't add paid staff and things like that. It gives our training, gives our volunteers more value. They come out more. We went from roughly 10 firefighters on the fire ground to a joint effort between Seward Fire and Bear Creek Fire. Now we're looking at roughly 20 people on the fire ground. So yeah, the training pays off. They feel more value. They feel like they can show up. And before, there were elements, certain people that just couldn't. and they didn't feel like they had that value, from my opinion. And so, yeah, I think the training is paying off. I think it is reducing costs already. I think the more we continue, the more cost savings that we are going to see, or from a non-cost increase, I guess.
So I think the two things that I just want to make sure you also heard that I kind of heard almost touched on a little bit at the town hall is that Connie asked a good question about why have we gone 5 or 6 years without having a deputy fire chief or a volunteer deputy fire chief, someone in the chain of command. I thought she asked a good question about that. And also knowing that we don't have senior leadership out of the volunteer corps, that would help emphasis. I'd encourage you to put an area of emphasis into that within our volunteers, because as we do look at reducing our budget or capping our budget as assessments continue to grow, or as potential pursuit of a mill rate reduction, I think our volunteers are our greatest asset. And I think our paid staff are there to support our volunteers, to support our equipment. And I think a little bit of our psychology has changed a little bit, but I do think that's an important area where we can get some fiduciary return on what we're paying for our taxes. So thanks for the conversation about it.
Can I follow up?
Absolutely.
I totally get it. I'm not gonna put a warm body in the seat. And so I gotta start from the bottom up. And so I'm starting at the engineer. I'm soon to move into the lieutenant section. I have a captain already. I have one vacant captain's position, and working my way up it is not something that's done overnight. You have to have competency as you start making decisions. When you get to the officer level, you're running teams. The intention, but I was just saying like the mentality behind it.
This is questions. If you guys have questions, let's ask questions. There's comments. There's more public comments later. But this isn't the town hall. This is supposed to be a board meeting. So, like, yeah, you should. Let's wrap it up if anybody else has questions.
When I look at the officer level and above, the intent is for there to be an entry team, there to be an exposure team, there to be an event team or a backup team. These are teams of 2 to 4, depending on what your personnel are. And those people make decisions, those officers make decisions that are overall independent unless there's a decision given from the incident commander. And so being a lieutenant from another department, I know that I have the lives of my firefighters in my hands. I would make decisions that could possibly get them killed. And so I know the importance at that level, how important it is to be competent. And that's what we're working towards. We're getting there. It's not the fastest thing in the world as far as volunteers are concerned. I love them to death. On average, we're 2 hours a week. If everybody shows up, that's 102 hours a year. They're putting in significantly more than that, but that's the prescribed time. And so I have limited time, and it takes time to get there. I promise I'll get there, but right now we're just not there yet. We're close, but we're just not there yet. Thank you.
Hi, Mark Swanson. First of all, thanks, Richard. I had the pleasure of being a volunteer with the Bear Creek for 14 years. And during that time, through Connie and all that, the department just got better and better and more proficient. And I really appreciate what's been done. But I hope that you understand the angst that we do have. It's that really we did feel that when we voted in 2007, it was because of the bill. And so there's that angst. Now, my question to you, I know that the department is getting an ambulance and stuff. How does that factor in?
So that topic's come up. I was trying to keep it around the budget, but obviously we're going to talk about an ambulance. I'm following a script that was prepared for me before my predecessor. There was a 1994 Trauma Hawk. It was an ambulance that Bear Creek had. It was replaced in, I think, 2010, and it may have been 2011, but the following fiscal year, the replacement schedule was set for that. The replacement schedule was for asking for that ambulance replacement in fiscal year 23, which I did. We got it in 2025 because of chassis issues. There were tons of chassis issues post-COVID that were just creating problems for four-wheel drive vehicles. And so it took us a while to get it. We actually were approved in fiscal year 23 when it was prescribed to be replaced. There is the notion that our intent is to replace the ambulance. And I said this the other night, it just doesn't make sense. Bear Creek brings 2, 3, maybe 4 max on EMS only calls. SVAC brings 2, 3 at best. Why would we rob ourselves of an extra 2 to 3 sets of hands? When we go on a critical call, we need everybody we can get. We've got to carry patients. We've got to move and create the way. We've got to get the gurney. We've got to provide care if something's attached to them. We've got to carry that. It just doesn't make sense. if we were trying to do that, we wouldn't have, as regular SBAC, former and current members in our classes. We've been teaching EMT 1 for 5 years straight now. Every year, ETT and EMT 1, we've moved up to EMT 2, and we've issued out 20 certifications to SBAC members. If we were trying to replace them, we wouldn't be certifying them. And their members are also instructing in our classes, so it doesn't make sense. I get there's some fear of that. We have always been a partner to SBAC. We'll always strive to be a partner with SBAC. With SBAC, our house was ugly, and we weren't providing the best care that we could. We weren't being a good partner, and we're trying to be a good partner, and it's kind of been turned into something ugly. I wish it hadn't. So that's the intent behind it, is we're trying to be better partners for our ambulance provider.
All right, thanks for.
I started a motion, I just have one question. So with the Borough Mayor, when you were going over numbers and I couldn't quite get it, how many fire calls and how many EMS calls do you guys get in our 15-mile area? How many, we're paying more than we have. Are we getting more services? Are we getting more calls? Are you guys going out more with paid employees?
We've got a slow creep upwards. A couple of years ago, it was sitting at 122 calls a year, and I think we had 163 calls. It might be wrong on that.
Is that the fire or EMS?
That's the all calls.
So you don't have a breakdown of the separate?
So I started breaking these down. I've got somewhere in here, I kind of don't want to, I mean, if you'll bear with me, I can look through it.
About 75% EMS.
About 75% of EMS. When we talk about ALS worthy calls, the calls as they were dispatched, we're looking at anywhere between 50 and 60% of those EMS calls they come in at a intensity level. It goes from alpha, beta, alpha, bravo, Charlie, delta, echo. The delta, echo calls are the intensity level where you expect to provide ALS care. And so we've been data mining that for the last 3 years.
Okay, thank you.
Jenna, did you have a question?
I saw reading.
He touched on it. I'm just wondering, call out now versus when the bond was approved. Sounds like it's about the same.
And what percentage of those calls, Richard, are out of our service area, going up the highway in Eastern Peninsula, whatever that acronym is?
Very few.
Okay.
Very few. There was a stretch where we made about 5 or 6 of those calls. The strengthening of the highway corridor, we aren't even part of the primary dispatch up to the line anymore. So I removed that. I'm also the director for FISA, and so I removed us from the playing field on initial dispatch. So we've actually reduced our calls up the highway because NewsPass is really have it. They definitely set their game up, and they're working together, and it's kind of a pretty cool success story. They're really coming with some better stuff now.
All right, if we could get back on what the topic was, mill rate. Nobody's doubting that we need you, and there are some striations in getting funding. And everybody here is going to say it over and over again. What we were sold. Okay. Would you oppose to a mill rate reduction and work on with this community on finding out what we do need to do to find a perfect mill rate that could sustain you?
I think, thank you for that question. I think that, and I mean no offense, but there's an elected board that's supposed to build that budget. And I think that if you have some insight, if you have a conversation that you want to have that can influence that, and let's work with that board. That board is the board that built that budget with me, and we present that to the mayor with a recommendation to move forward, or a split vote, or whatever that is. You guys have the opportunity to come into that room and help us build that budget with your opinions, with your insight, with your ideas, and what comes out of that is what comes out of it. If it's a mill rate reduction, if it's some creative way of reducing costs and allowing that opening, we're all for it. We're not for just skyrocketing the cost of things. And it's very difficult to reconcile that 2007 vote, I wasn't here. I don't know the inner workings of everything. It's just what I read on pages in the budget and in minutes. I devour them regularly so I can better understand what the intent was behind everything. But I can't reconcile that. I agree and I don't agree because I know I need that money for those funds for operations, but I also recognize that what you guys really thought you were voting for, and whichever side of the perspective you're on, like at the end of the day, I just look at what it takes to provide the service that you've asked for. And I can't reconcile the 2007. If y'all want to work together to try to lower that, that's perfectly fine. I'm willing to do that. The board, I'm sure, is willing to do that.
Go ahead, Julie.
Are you, I think in some of the conversations about the budget and whatnot, did I see that you're asking for an increase in the personnel costs to go to the budget this year for the new budget that was just approved by the board? Is there any addition to that, that line item?
If there's an addition, it's a normal graduation of wages, so you get a raise or whatever like that, it's baked in there, whatever your benefits or insurance costs increase, those natural increases for the already existing, but there's no request for anything in addition to what is already there.
There wasn't, under the budget line items where you give the explanation for additional money to add to a line item. Was there additional funds being added to personnel for payment of overtime for people to stay at the station longer?
That was in fiscal year 26. We finished the volunteer quarters upstairs first with the intent to provide a volunteer shift because we found that the majority of our calls were coming in the evenings, holidays, weekends, and things like that. And so to reconcile that, we already taken care of response times associated with daytime calls and availability of our responders to our paid staff. And so we started working on our evening call outs. And we created this really awesome space for our volunteers to come and spend the night and be the kind of the tip of the spear and go ahead and get that apparatus out the door quicker to reduce our assembly time. And it didn't mature very well. And when I was asking our volunteers, what's the deal? Why are you not working shifts? Why isn't this ramping up? And that was a good thing. And well, we're kind of scared to be the person in the apparatus and we don't know if backups come in. And so there's a serious concern there. Not that we've been alone on scenes before, but when you're sitting there at the station, your responsibility is to grab the truck and it's like you're committed to that call. It's kind of scary. And so I realized, crap, I can't believe I missed that. And so that overtime in fiscal year 26 was trying to rectify that, to put me and my two fire technicians on a week, off 2 weeks, to be on call, to come to those calls, to be guaranteed to be that paid staff, that backup, and extra partner in there so that our volunteers would not feel so strained about being the tip of the spear right there. And so it is ramped up. We're covering 10 to 15 calls a shift, and it is ramping up. It's getting more robust as the months go by.
I think we're going to go ahead and move into our public discussion unless there's any major opposition. Thank you, Chief Bracken. I think he's made it clear he's aware, or he's available for questions. As we work through these meetings, we will try to fine tune how we want to make sure that we're fair for anybody who wants to present, that everybody gets equal time. And I appreciate Rodney kind of jumping in and making sure that we're staying on track. Again, we're also at 8:20. I want to do the best I can in my role as chairman to make these meetings start on time and make them as efficient as possible. I don't want to cut anybody off. That's not what we're here to do. But there are people who are waiting patiently to get into the public comment. So I'd like to go ahead and move into public comment 1 and our first person on the list. By the way, please go ahead and sign in. That just lets us know kind of how people showed up, in what order, keep it fair, and we'll go to Taylor Crocker. And I would ask you to use the microphone, not necessarily because we can't hear you. There's been a lot of people speaking from the back. I can hear you clearly, and my ears are pretty bad. But the microphone helps make sure it goes out over the live stream. So go ahead and step up. Thank you.
And if you live in or out of Bear Creek, please.
Taylor Crocker, inside Bear Creek limits. As of December, finally found a house. Been here for 2 years, but So I know, a lot of you have seen a lot of the faces at all these meetings over the last couple weeks. The Bear Creek Fire meeting last week, City Council last night, this one tonight. It's kind of getting to be a lot of meetings, but we have another meeting tomorrow night, same place. Wolf's actually going to be streaming it if you wanted to watch it from home on Sacktown Talk. But it's the 4th town hall for our electric department. And I'm kind of getting the feeling that the citizens of the area are kind of getting sick of hearing about all the options, but we have one more town hall. If, depending on what the survey looks like in June, we might have another one if there's still some undecided people out there. But we started the first town hall back in September. We have other small cooperatives come down here and talk about what it's like to be a small electric cooperative from Cordova, Glen Allen, and Kodiak. And then in December, we heard from the large co-ops on the rail belt, HEA, CEA, MEA, and Golden Valley, and heard kind of their case on, what it would look like if we joined one of them. And then the last town hall in February was Mark Begich talking about when he was the mayor of Anchorage, starting the utility authority. It was the Anchorage telephone utility, and how that worked out. And that's similar to AWU today. So it's still owned by the municipality, but a separate entity. And then tomorrow night, we're going to talk about the financial differences between the different models. There's a lot of highly technical issues coming to our state right now, especially with the natural gas shortage. And everyone's pursuing hydro. So are we. We got the FERC permit submitted for Godwin 4th of July. But we're going to show you guys the numbers tomorrow night. What it looks like, and there's what it looks like tomorrow for a financial, payout on your electric bill, and what it looks like for your kids' generation's electric bill. And I'm just hoping that as many people show up as possible, so you guys can make the decision. And we're trying to make it more transparent. I wasn't here when the last sale went through, but a lot of the feedback we got from that first survey is that people didn't really know what was going on, and it was highly secretive and all the things. And we're doing these town halls just so that you can make the decision on, what you want to have your utility look like in the future. Brian and I, as you guys know, work for MEA. So we're contracted to the city of Seward. I'm the operations manager, he's the general manager. We don't really have a stake in this game. I mean, in the last 12 years, I've changed the logo on my shirt 4 times. And it doesn't really matter, but appreciate it. But anyway, hopefully you show up tomorrow night.
Thank you. Just for the record, I would kindly ask that you print your name just very clearly. There's some really beautiful signatures on here that I absolutely cannot decipher. So if I mess up your name, I'll take only half of it. I believe it's Chris Lalimo.
Hey,
Not bad.
that's pretty good, pretty good. I just wanted to bring up a couple things for consideration, that some things that I'm kind of concerned about in our area. I've lived here about 12 years and I'm inside Bear Creek. And I gotta say, when I moved here, I thought the roads were really bad. Like the worst I've ever seen in my life. And they haven't gotten any better. And I've kind of been harping on the road service guys, say, hey, come on, you gotta improve your process. You gotta do something different, because what you're doing, keep doing the same thing and expect different results. That's the definition of insanity. So I'd like to see somebody, us work together at trying to change the way our roads are graded and change the way that's getting paid out. I think we could actually save money if things were constructed properly and graded properly. The other thing is development. We got the Blueberry Hill thing coming in. That kind of blindsided me, and I think a lot of those people in the community got blindsided by that. We don't, there's nobody talking to us on this side of the peninsula telling us this stuff is happening. We're also gonna in talking to the land person for the borough, Aaron Hughes, one of the things I got from him, because I was talking to him about the trails, I'm one of the Stuart Iditarod Trailblazers, and we work on the Iditarod National Historic Trail that runs through here. The borough is picking up land from the state. There's federal land conveyed to the state is conveying it to the borough. And the borough's idea is that that's gonna be houses and more roads that they don't know how to maintain yet. And we're gonna lose our trail system if we don't get on this and kind of take action. There's a piece of property, if you know where Little Bear Lake is, up on Tiehacker there. The borough owns that piece of property. The International Historic Trail runs directly through it. They don't have any intention of saving that trail. They've told me they don't do recreation. The Bott Lake was slated for a new trailhead. The Forest Service had over $2 million to build a new trailhead at Bott Lake. The borough kiboshed it because they think that should be a really good place for lakefront properties developed. So there's another trail that we would lose. And if we don't speak up, we're gonna lose our trails of things that we recreate on. You know, there's some tourists on, but that's the stuff that we do. We're gonna lose it if we don't pay attention to it. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Is there more than one Kim here? Otherwise
That's
it's-
me. I must have the nice handwriting. My name's Kimberly Strelo, and I live in Bear Creek. And I'm also a part of the Iditarod Trailblazers. And at the initial meeting with the Bear Creek Fire Department multi-facility with Mayor Machicky, I was there, Lori Landstrom was there too, and she worked with heading up your council, and I took on extending the bike path. And the reason that I took that on was being a part of the Iditarod Trailblazers, and that we are a nonprofit. We have an NPI, and we can ask for funding for this. So in taking that on, the capital improvement project that I asked for was $2.2 million to extend the bike path from where it ends at the Bear Creek facility going on to Grouse Lake, because we have a lot of seasonal workers, we have a lot of families, there's a lot of folks that utilize that back and forth into the city limits and outside of it, and it's a safety hazard. The other thing that I wanted to see was to extend that bike path along Nash Road. There's a lot of people who use it going down Nash Road to Bognac, and then that also connects to the Iditarod Trail that will take you to the long trail to Fairbanks if you want. But my main part is just trying to connect that Iditarod Trail section and then make it safe for people that live in that community and utilize it. As tourism builds, we need to make it safe for everyone, and especially our community. So in working with the borough and asking for capital improvement project, and I did make they had a booklet of people that, some of them make the booklet, some of them don't. Well, our request did make the booklet. Another thing that I was directed to was a grant fund of something called the SS4A, which has $1 billion in federal funding. And with doing that, it was due on May 26th. I did not qualify for that, and there's a reason why. And I'd like to just read this to you. And this is coming from Heather Gear, and she's from the KPB. She's the grants department person. And she says, thanks for your email. After speaking to the stakeholders and further reviewing grant requirements for this funding opportunity, the borough will not be able to move forward with the proposal submission of the applicant recipient at this time for the SS4A implementation projects should ideally sign with one of 20 priority locations outlined in the comprehensive safety action plan available for review here at KPB SS4 Comprehensive Safety Plan. This grant opportunity also requires a 20% local funds match. These match funds must be non-federal funds and would amount to over 400,000 based on the 2.1 million requested funds for this project proposal. To 2 million based on the suggestion to increase to even a 10 million. I had a meeting with the DOT of the state of Alaska because they're a critical part of this, considering the Seward Highway. And when we look at that area and the meeting, the DOT recommended that I increase the request for the grant due to the fact of the increases of fuel and products that gravel, everything will increase with time.
We're at time too.
Very good. Well, I'd like to say that I did get a letter from the Department of Alaska, the DOT, that this is coming from Secretary Sean Duffy. And what she's saying is that we support your request because it is a huge safety. But I will tell you one of the things that I did ask them for, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna go over my time because
Ask you to
everybody
wait
seems-
until the end of the second public comment, if you'd like to say another few words. I just want to make sure everybody has an opportunity, because we
I
did want
will.
to keep it to 3
I
minutes.
will, but Nash Road is huge.
If you don't mind.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, Greg Hampton, 3 minutes, please. And again, if there's more time at the end, or folks would like to hang around, we'll do our best. We don't want to cut anybody off, but we are at, after 8:30, I believe, so we'll just kind of stick as best we can to our approved agenda. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Craig. I'm obviously with Bear Creek. Sarah will read a little bit here. Didn't think I'd be up here in front of y'all. So I've been in Bear Creek about 4 years. I've had 20 years in the fire service, about 40 years in emergency management. And around the issue about mill rate and taxes and what our fire department is doing, have to ask a few questions and bring up a few things. So how much will be saved versus how will services be impacted by a reduction to our services to our full-time residents? We have to look at what's the purpose of the fire department. Number one, to rescue people from burning buildings. In the last 50 years or so, it's to provide emergency medical care. A big part of this is reduced response times for life-saving interventions. Thus, we hope to have people at the station to help with those times. Fourth, save property, but not at the risk of firefighters' lives. And at the end of the day, what we do is we risk a lot to save a lot. So we risk a lot to save people. Talk about money. To be blunt, we don't volunteer to save the community money or taxes as volunteers. Do you understand how much a full-time paid staff fire department will cost you? How many firefighters that takes to make a safe response? There's a minimum number on shift to be able to do rescue and fight fires, not even considering EMS. Considering this, it's misleading to use a call number as a lone metric for cost, as personnel and equipment must exist for any response, any number of calls. We already know that the budget was passed and is a trimmed and efficient operating budget. We can also understand that fire trucks are very expensive. They have a limited service life. Our apparatus also carries water for firefighting in our area, as we don't have hydrants, meaning more apparatus to replace and more cost. Old fleets become dangerous for firefighters and the public and simply can't do their job. The budget. There are good questions being brought up here. How then do we structure these two parts that we have right now? At current funding levels, if funding is cut, within a few years, capital replacement funds will drop below even a 30-year replacement cycle. That cycle is usually 20 years, not 30. We'll eventually face a large shortfall at some point. What happens when other parts of the budget are cut? Are volunteers expected to risk more? If full-time staffing is cut, are volunteers expected at the times without effective leadership and put themselves in jeopardy? What do you expect would happen? Shall we cut essential services based on unreasonable expectation that they don't cost much? Are volunteers expected to take up the job without the leadership, training, and tools they need to be effective and safely return home after a call? I think this through. Is the most important thing to seek some kind of reduction in short-term costs or support the mission of your first responders?
Thank you. I asked Ronnie to turn that microphone. I realize that the people with comments want to address the membership, not us, which I appreciate. But if you would just try to speak right into that microphone again, so that we can all hear, but more importantly, so that the live stream will pick it up for people who are watching online. Okay, Blaine Sears.
Blaine Sears, Bear Creek, and this will be quick, so I'll donate the rest of my time to someone else. This is just, we've touched on a couple of these things. One, I just kind of want to make sure we're all on the same page. First would be the Facebook pages. I believe that one of the biggest things that this group is for right now is dissemination of information, and having one Facebook page, one website, one place to go to is highly critical. And the sooner we can get all that, I understand it takes time, and I'm not, trying to rush anyone, but that would be a huge thing is get all those so we can have one concise way to get information out. Another one with that, since we are recognized by the borough, is working with the fire department and seeing if we can get use of the fire department's electronic sign, which is paid by our mill rates, for advertising our meetings, for advertising our Facebook page, things of that nature. I think that's another avenue that we have for the borough. And then the only other quick thing is hopefully in the future, I think we should be able to use the fire department at Bear Creek, hopefully, for all of our future meetings, if we're able to. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
All right, so that concludes public comment period number one. I need to get a little more trained up on why we use this agenda structure. We're going to talk more about that and try to help explain it a little bit better. In the future, we'll have old business, new business, so each of those public comment sections will be used for that purpose. But for tonight, we really just wanted to stress that we want to use as much time as possible without going, too late, just to allow people to have this opportunity, because that's really what this was built for. So we're going to, I'll just announce that I think I already said this, but June 17th is our next meeting. One of the reasons why we're using this building, and I'm not saying that we can't adapt and change, but is that the technology is a little bit easier, things are in place, things like the projector, the microphones. Again, not that we can't work on that, and maybe the fire department, we can set that up to make that possible. Again, Wolf has volunteered his time, so we appreciate his input on what it takes to set this up, to make it work, to not only have the projector, to have the live stream, and to have the microphone. So
just one point.
Sure.
The room at Bear Creek is the fire marshal's limited at 44 people occupancy. This is 130 in here and another 200 out there. So just.
Yeah, and obviously this being the first meeting, we didn't know how many we'd have. We've had as many as, we were over capacity that very first meeting that Lori hosted back in the fall. We had 75, I think, and we were allowed to continue, but we were made known that we were over capacity. So I appreciate the idea of using facilities that we pay for and that are within the Bear Creek area. So we'll continue to have that conversation and just kind of do what works best. So without any other notes or news, we'll move into public comment period number 2. Sure.
Hi, everybody. I'm John Hughes. I'm the sergeant at arms here. So I'm supposed to keep everything kind of in check and moving along accordingly, learning all that and that kind of jazz. Be that as it may, I did take stock of who showed up today against the voter registration list that I have from the vote that we took. If you've already participated in that vote, you're registered just kind of disregard this message. For the few people that are here that may not be registered to vote, it's a really simple thing. Just need to see your ID, government ID, and your voter registration card to make sure that you vote in the Bear Creek area. So if you do that, we can put you on the list, then you'll be vetted, you'll be allowed to vote if we ever need to get to a point where we have to have a vote, where we have our quorum, which is made up of 3 voting members, or board members, excuse me. At least the vice chair or the chairman have to be present as one of those board members. And then it's 32 registered voters also have to be present. So it's 35 total, okay? So anybody who hasn't and in future meetings would like to be a voting member, that's all you gotta do. Just wanted to get that out there for everybody here and that's present, okay? Thank you.
All right, we'll start with Kathy Beaman.
Okay, Kathy Bingman, I'm from Cuesta Woods. And what I wanted to do here is give an update as to what's going on with the Blueberry Hill situation. And my husband and I have been working with this, and so go ahead, and I hope you don't mind that I'm reading off of this because there's a lot of information that I have to get through in 3 minutes. So I'd like to give this group a brief recap regarding the sale of the Alaska Mental Health Trust Authority property in Cuesta Woods and let you know where things stand. The Kenai Peninsula Borough purchased 80-acre zipline property accessible from Knotwood Lane in Cuesta Woods. Adjacent to that property is the 195-acre parcel known as Blueberry Hill, owned by the Alaska Mental Health Trust Authority. The trust plans to sell Blueberry Hill along with 19 other Alaskan parcels between the fiscal years of 2027 and 2032. Because Blueberry Hill is landlocked, the borough and trust jointly paid for a road assessment to route the access through the borough's 80 acres to get to Blueberry Hill. In March, the trust published a best interest decision outlining their plans for land sales. The public had until April 20th to submit comments. Nearly 100 residents responded, 88 of whom signed a collaborative letter. Despite that, the executive director of the Trust Land Office determined that no changes will be made to the best interest decision. Our next step is to submit a new request for reconsideration to the Trust Land Office, along with required fee by June 7th. Bob and I, my husband, will follow through with the submission. Once submitted, the executive director, who overlooks this again, has 20 days to approve or deny the request. If we're denied again, the final step is an appeal to the Superior Court. In brief, these are the bullet points we dispute, and due to the time limit, I'll not be able to elaborate. But the first thing is there's no parcel-specific analysis of the 195 acres. The second is that they said there's no known public concerns. That's factually incorrect. The third is the sales structure contradicts the trust's own highest and best use finding. The 195-acre parcel should be subdivided before sale. Alternatives analysis is incomplete. And a bulk sale conflicts with the trust management principles. And with that in mind, we have a few requests for the committee. First, we'd like the committee to receive and review our documentation on this matter. There's quite a bit of information, and I just can't, bring it all forward at this point. Second, we'd ask for your help communicating with residents through the Bear Creek Community Council group email to keep the community informed. Third, if legal action becomes necessary, would the committee be open to helping collect donations from concerned residents to assist with the legal fees?
Jeff Wolf.
Hello everyone, my name is Jeff Wolf. I live in the Bear Creek service area since 2009. And I've been on the Bear Creek Fire Department since November 2009. I'm the only captain that Richard was talking about. And I've been on the fire advisory board for about 3 years. First thing I want to mention, I'm a taxpayer too, and the big thing is I'm not opposed to paying taxes, but I want to make sure every dollar counts. And so that there's not waste. And part of the process, we really thoroughly go through the budget and take a look and see, where are things that can be tightened up? Now, where is the excess at? Do we need that for the following year and so forth? And I've served under 3 different fire chiefs. They were all different. They all had their successes and their challenges. But one thing I wanted to focus on, Chief Rankin mentioned, was the volunteer stipend shift, which we started in 2025. And this gave the opportunity for a volunteer to be at the station for the day. They could engage training, and that they would take out some of the duties during that time. And it really brought in pride and ownership into the station, which was what we're hoping to get that buy-in. It took a little time. We didn't have the upstairs ready, so there wasn't really a good place to sleep to start out. But slowly, as we got that first room finished, and as we got buy-in, and Richard mentioned, as there was support given, and that for being on the scene first in command, and that it kind of took off. Now we have people picking up the shift pretty regularly, which is great to see. We're seeing some of our young members who are saying, hey, I think this might be my career. And this takes a while. The challenges in our fire district. When part of the meetings, we look ahead. What's Bear Creek Fire Service area going to look like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? And we may even be imagining 50 when we're probably going to be gone at this point. But what are the needs that we need to prepare for? And this really helps that if we can have our young volunteers engaged and have support the community with that they may be the future them. What may be the next Bear Creek Fire Chief, or down the road. So I think we've had our challenges, but I think we've had a great success with this program. And I ask that you please give us your support with that. And that's all I got.
Greg Haas?
Evening. I just really appreciate already touching on the bike trail. That was on my notes. I have a question, possibly just this month. If we talked about revenue this evening, we kicked off with hey, where are we getting our money? If anybody's driving around Pogneck, seeing all the cars, if anybody's smarter than me to figure out maybe there's a way we can monetize all the people that come in and go snagging and park along the highway and do everything out in the woods. If there's a way that maybe we could reach out, but find a way to monetize it. I'd love to see us get some good revenue so we're not asking for donations and we're not tapping it. I also want to touch on is that you guys, there were 5 different times I heard it and I love it because new volunteers, I'm new to this. I heard this a few different times, which kind of goes to hopefully we all go home feeling pretty darn good about what we're doing here. I shared that too when I went and I wrote a little letter about why I think a mill rate reduction is important. And I do think it's handled through the assessment increases. I think that's where our budget continues to grow. But I did have a conversation with our mayor this weekend because at our town hall, he latched on to me invoking that I was new to the fire board and I do support the budget. And he kind of twisted it for his own commentary, but he did bring up that being new is not an excuse to vote for something against something. And really what I got out of that when I reflected on it, first I was like, why is he jabbing at me? I've known him for a while. But really what I got out of it is that we represent we're taking control of some positional authority and some power within our community that our bureaucracy has never really respected or found a way to communicate with. You guys are awesome for wanting to be up there. I really appreciate it. Don't bother mentioning you haven't done this stuff before. Each one of you guys are doing something special for our community as volunteers, and that means a lot. We don't want to be a community where we grow into new bureaucracy within our community. That I want to be. And I love the fact that you guys are structuring it. So there's a lot of good things going on. And that's my thanks. for that. I learned it, but I heard it and I wanted to share it with you guys being up there. Also, it is May, and I hate to bring it up, but October is going to come up fast, which is when the CAP selection happens. And all the other communities that consider what to do with that CAP money, they have their nonprofits thinking about it over the summertime. So at some future meeting, we've got 3 or 4 really strong nonprofits within our community. We have potentially some SAR needs with the volunteer fire department, some trails that I love seeing and growing. There's a lot of other things with the ski club. So it's a good time now to encourage our nonprofits to get some ideas together so we can make sure that that money is spent on us. Thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Thank you all. All right, that's the end of our, excuse me one second. So that's all we have on our sign-in sheet. Again, if you'll please sign in just at the beginning to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to go in the order that you showed up. In the future, we will have 2 separate sections, and we're going to try to do our best to explain that again to where it's new business, old business, public comment sections, all of those. We'll work through that. But again, tonight is about just everybody having the opportunity to step up and speak. So if anybody who hasn't spoken would like to come up and do so, maybe we can just form a line here along the railing. We'll just go in order. So if you have anything else to contribute, now would be the time.
I signed up, but I don't know what happened.
Oh, sorry, what's your name?
Mark Fields.
Where did you sign up?
Right out there.
Oh, maybe you just sign the sheet.
Oh,
we'll try to have a little bit clearer.
Oh, no problem.
What's what.
I should have.
You know, I'll only take half.
So, I wrote a big thing, basically thanking all the volunteers and the people that made the fire department what it is all these years. I was the second volunteer fire chief and the last volunteer fire chief in the borough. And I'm going to go to my last paragraph. And this is from last year's documents from the budget for the Kenai-Pittsburgh Borough. Kenai-Pittsburgh Borough Mayor Machicki has specifically stated in his budget documents, and this is last year, that unsustainable budgets leads to unaffordable mill and tax rates. To combat this, the Kenai-Pittsburgh Borough proposals to reduce the borough mill rate. So the borough reduced their own mill rate 0.45 and maintained service. They also did the exemption from 50,000 to 75,000. They're maintaining services. I don't think any of us are saying to decrease service. What we want is, like last year, there was about 75,000 extra that came in revenue. This year it's 40-some thousand. I don't have the exact number that's coming in revenue. Those are adding to the programs that we're doing. We can maintain the fire department, and we were the only fire service areas that didn't drop their mill rate last year. They kept the mill rate the same for Bear Creek. The only other mill rate that went up was the Sylvania recreational area because they wanted to keep their swimming pool when it was defunded through the school district. So everybody else has been decreasing their mill rates. Borough General Fund and every other service area and maintaining their service. We aren't doing that. Over the past couple of years, that's 115,000 that we've increased the budget, well, last year and then proposed this year. There's no reason we can't slowly decrease the mill rate. As you know, Cindy tried to decrease it 0.25 last year. The money as far as coming in would have been the same. That went to new programs. It's the same this year. If we maintain the mill rate, we're adding to the overall cost of the department. So as an example, the one mill that we all voted on, which I told you would be sunset, but because I was one of them that took the form around and got people to sign the petition, we all believed it would be sunset at the end. Of course, we all know what's happened with that. But the original one mill was supposed to bring in 100,000. By the time the building actually got done and stuff, one mill was bringing in 140,000. And we knew it would be a couple years, and we had accounted for that. Dave Hayes and the engineers did all the figuring with the utilities and stuff like that. And so we knew in a couple of years, we would actually have some more revenue coming in to cover utilities from the other 2.25, not necessarily, well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else that has an opportunity? All right.
It's 3 minutes, but I noticed that the city council, they all, at the end of the meeting, it's board comments, and I don't know that we have it in ours, but I just wanted to talk real quick and just say, for one, thanks for coming. This is a great showing of everybody participating. I ran for this position to be on this board because I'm so excited for our community to have a voice, and I am wanting to take this job or this position as seriously as I can. I would like to go into every meeting with an open mind and listen to everybody's information. I'm very excited to just learn about all this stuff, and I hope you guys are as well. I would just encourage everybody to go to all these. I know it's a lot of meetings, 5 meetings in the last week and a half or something, but just learning about all this stuff as best as we can to just get rid of all the Facebook stuff. Yes, some things are true on both sides, but if we can come to these meetings and all get together in a group, whether we agree with each other or not, in a conductive, productive manner, and we won't have so much anger against each other. Let's just try to see each other's sides of it. Whether we reduce the mill or not, I think we all agree the fire department is there and we all want it there. And so if there's anybody, we already mentioned it once, but if anybody wants to get a hold of us, our email, unless you guys have my phone number or any other phone numbers, but yeah, basically thanks for being part of this and let us know what direction you want to go, because I'm just here to be a voice for the community. I don't know how this all works.
We are new to this. We are trying to figure out a system that works. There's going to be a few failures along with this. I know once I made it on here, I had one fight in mind to make sure all the public is. I live right below the Binghams. We own property down there. The Blueberry Hill thing is something that's big on mine. What was big on a lot of people that reached out to me was this mill rate. And this is exactly why I came here and wanted to do this. I feel all too often that the government is right now, they'll sell you something, they'll play on our emotion, and we'll just conform to it. Nobody here is denying the safety of these men out here and women to go into buildings and to do things. I'm all for that. What I am for is transparency of where our money goes. What I'm sold, the cost of goods I'm getting, not the play of words. And this is what they kept asking me, as though I'm the specialist as I'm gathering this. And as I go further down it, we were sold something, we voted on it. It has now, because property values, more housing, and that mill rate, there is a difference in it. There is justified costs that they need. However, if you or I ran a business and we pulled from pot A to pot B and we were recording this, we would probably not be sitting here. And I feel that that's what's happening here. And so in my quest in this and talking with everybody and the people that came to me, my thoughts are that we need to reduce this mill rate for what it was purposed for. We need to go and revisit as a community and make sure they can do their job appropriately and fund them and have everything that they need and understand that that could be variable year to year. There's nobody in here that would argue the safety of people. But I would argue on how we are describing the money, how we, play on emotion and talk about, people getting hurt and stuff like that. And I just want fiscal responsibility. I wanna know where the money's going for and pay accordingly. They need a new truck and we got a budgetary problem, we can do things and work as a community on it. That's all.
Well, I think we've about covered it, unless there's anything for the greater good. We'll adjourn until.
Brian, nope,
Excuse me.
nope.
Sorry, Lori.
Pass the microphone, please.
Yep. Gotta be quick.
So, the Bear Creek Community Council Board cannot make a public opinion or decision without the vote of all of us in this room. And so I would like to ask, is there a motion from the floor, one way or another, on the mill rate? That's what we've been talking about all night. So, and this is how Robert's rules go. You make a motion, you make a second, and then there's discussion. At some point, there will be a vote on that. And that's why John talked about who's able to vote tonight and who isn't able to vote tonight. If we don't have a motion, there'll be no vote and we can all go home. But if the will of the people in this room is to have a motion one way or another, that's what I would like to do next, Madam, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I'm a madam, he's a mister.
I'll make a motion that we have a vote on whether to reduce the mill rate to 0.5 without any further discussion after, because we already talked enough.
Second.
Who's?
Chris Lillemore.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Chris.
I'm gonna actually let Lori continue on that. She's been here more times than me, and go for it.
I would like to have discussion if there is points that have not been made. So let's not repeat points that have been made, but if somebody feels like they have another strong point to make. We have a motion on the floor to reduce the mill rate by 0.5%. Editorial comment, that is the ordinance that Representative Eklund is putting forward. We have a second on that motion. So motion was made by Chris, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, sorry, and Mark. But so is there pertinent discussion?
I thought Cindy, I misunderstood. I thought Cindy wanted to reduce it by 0.25, making it 0.75. Am I unclear on that?
That was last year. Cindy's ordinance last year that failed was 0.25. This year, her ordinance that she is prepping right now is 0.5. Now, if this room and this community decides we votes that down, Cindy may withdraw her ordinance.
Thank you.
So to clarify, Lori, the vote would be in favor of what Cindy proposed. A vote for no, a vote no would be.
A vote yes would be to support the ordinance that Representative Eklund is proposing for a 0.5 reduction in the mill rate. A vote no would not be in favor of a mill rate reduction. Is that clear?
Let me preface voting by a vote no doesn't mean you're trying to defund the fire department.
Neither vote means you're trying to defund the fire
Just wanted to put
department.
that out there.
My personal opinion is that they have over collected. I am not in that school of thought. I'm just gonna say that. But I was a volunteer for 10 plus years over in Soldotna before I moved here. So my heart and soul is with volunteers and volunteer safety. And I don't want anybody sitting in the back row to feel like I don't support you, because I absolutely do. And I have for 10 sleepless nights, years. So any other pertinent discussion topics? Wolf.
I think there's kind of a war going on here with this mill rate adjustment to the overall mill rate. It's kind of a distinction without a difference, really, because the budget is the mill rate. So you can reduce the mill rate for the building. But the budget that was voted on was really for the whole fall of wax. So it wasn't really considering that. So the budget for the fire service area is the mill rate. And all those expenses are laid out in the budget. All 5 of the fire service area representatives elected by the people in this room voted, I think it was unanimous, right, for this budget? Yeah. So, and now we're kind of coming in and retconning this whole this public process that has already occurred. Now, I'm kind of curious, are you advising the elected members of the fire service area to reduce this mill rate? Or are you assuming some other kind of position? I just don't understand.
Are you asking for a response to that question? Because I don't understand your
Well,
question.
it's both a point and a question. I don't, it's up to you. Yeah.
So the Borough Assembly will be voting on the mill rate. Representatives from all over the peninsula don't even live here or pay taxes here.
Based on a budget that was already submitted by people that we elected. So we're asking them to do something different than the budget that's already been passed.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, well, it just begs the question, what's the purpose of having a fire service area board?
Call the vote.
Call for the question?
Call for the.
I heard a call for the question.
I mean, I'm a little lost.
So, Mr. Chair and Sergeant at Arms, how are we holding this vote? Is it a vote of show of hands or is it a secret ballot? Are people okay with a show of hands?
So here's the deal. No, that's fair. There are a total of 39 voting members, like, that I know, that I vetted against the registered list. So if you did not participate in voting us to the board, you cannot participate in this vote. So I'm kind of going on a few people in this room's word that they're not going to be participating in it. Yes.
I think that's highly unfair. If we're having a vote tonight, then every member here, because there was no caveat, is there anything in the bylaws that says if we didn't vote for you in last week that we can't register tonight to vote?
Yeah, you're not registered member, like, part of this. If you have your voter ID, your government ID right now,
I do.
you can prove that you are a part of this, then yeah, I'll add you to this and we're good to go. That's totally fine. That's what I stipulated when I did the business. If you're not a part of the member voting list right now, and you have your voter ID and government ID, and they match and it says Bear Creek, you can vote. But it is fair to the vetted members that if you haven't been vetted, that you don't vote right now. Because we're going on our honor system here. And we've been voted in to take the bylaws seriously. And it says, like, we gotta vet that.
It says that registered voters in the Bear Creek district can
Right.
vote.
Right, but if I tried to sell you snake oil, you're just gonna buy it? You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand it. If you are a part of it and we can prove that, then we'll let you vote. But if I can't prove it tonight, how do I let you vote?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm just gonna read directly from the bylaws, because really that's all we can operate from. The board has no ability to make any decisions really, at all. The membership has to vote, the members adopted these bylaws, and there is a process, the membership has to vote, the members adopted these bylaws, and there is a process to amend the bylaws, and which are, again, written in the bylaws. Keep using that phrase. But in section Article 3 membership, it says, a Bear Creek resident may become a member at any time throughout the year by presenting residency and voting credentials. So I would take that to mean if you show your voting credentials and you are a resident, you can vote.
Can I present those to the table at this time?
Yeah, absolutely. Totally fine to do it, like, and I'm not trying to exclude
No,
anybody
no,
that
you're
wants to
being
vote,
fair.
just trying to be exactly
As,
fair.
while they're working through that, prior to the next meeting, we will have somebody at the table with that register to be able to make sure that everybody signs in, particularly if we do have something we know we're gonna vote for. This is obviously our first meeting, and we didn't know for sure that we would have a quorum or a vote, so we'll work on that.
You can look up on the voter portal for the state and find your registration.
Celeste, I mean, it's good.
Yes. Yeah, we're good. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Yes, I did. I'll go through.
Kelly Hatfield. Fred Moore, voter card.
Love it. Good there.
Martin. Tim Johnson. Thank you. Marjorie Macaroni. Michelle Kendall. No, we can't don't give it to money. We don't want the money. Yes, we'll pay. Yeah. Is there anybody else that wants the vote that needs credentials checked? Otherwise, we're gonna
One more, oh, yeah.
One more,
Yeah.
okay. Perfect.
We were at a point before, we're still at a point.
Right. Yeah, Sergeant at Arms, please.
Didn't you do the driver's test?
Sorry, we're just trying to be fair. So the bylaws do say registered voters of Bear Creek, so, all right. Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
So, do you want me to continue to go
Yes.
on, Ryan? Okay. Or you can just call for raise of hands for yes, or then raise of, and
So
we'll count.
I just want to clarify one more time what the motion was to support Cindy's intention to request a 0.5 reduction in the mill rate. So a vote yes is to support what she presented and her intention. A vote no is to not support it. And again, all we can really do as a council is in writing say we had 39 people present and X number voted yes, X number voted no, making our intentions known. That's not me trying to downplay what we're here to do or what our abilities are. I think we all know with enough public support one way or the other, we can get things done. But that's just what we're talking about right now. This is not a.
You said 0.05.
I'm sorry, 0.5.
Point correction.
Yes, thank you. So it's 0.5 reduction is as presented by Cindy. Okay, so are you, Lori, are you counting hands?
John and I are both gonna count.
Okay, sure.
So,
Okay, so all in favor?
Keep your
hands up, keep
please.
your hands up. We get to vote on the board too. We're no different than they are, so. Uh-oh, we gotta recount. Sorry, keep your hands up. We had
No, it's okay.
like 5 off, sorry. Okay, 35.
35 out of 46.
Those opposed? $16.
So, again, read the numbers, please.
35 in favor, 16 opposed.
So 35 in favor, 16 opposed, it passes, and we'll have secretary record the total number of people present and the vote yeas and the vote nays, but by majority vote, it does pass.
So are there any, I don't know, what do we do now? Adjourn? Closing comments? Or-
Any further comment? Otherwise, we're going to adjourn, and we'll see you again on June 17th. Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who came out.
Okay.
Thanks, Rocky.